Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm Lauren Feldman, your host. Every week, I sit down with three business owners to talk about the challenges they're facing. It's the kind of conversation you don't often hear in public. Our panelists address difficult topics like why their business isn't making as much money as they think it should, why their digital marketing isn't working, or why exactly they hired their brother-in-law. Owning a business can be a lonely and isolating pursuit, but at least you'll know that you're not the only one facing these issues. Got a question you'd like us to address? Send it to us and follow us on Twitter at 21_hats or on our website, 21hats.com. Let's meet this week's 21 Hats podcast lineup. Back with us today are Karen Clark-Cole, who is CEO of Blink, a user experience research and design firm based in Seattle. Jay Goltz, who has several businesses in Chicago, including a picture frame shop, Artist Frame Service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. And Dana White, who's founder of Paralee Boyd, a chain of hair salons based in Detroit. As far as I know, nobody goes into business because they think they're going to be really good at firing people. And when you read books or magazine profiles of business leaders, you rarely hear anyone say, the one thing I've really mastered is knowing when and how to fire people. And yet, it's something that every entrepreneur has to think about, has to deal with. It's an important skill. Even at the most successful businesses, not every employee is going to make it. So let's talk about this. I'd like to start first with asking each of you roughly, how many people have you had to fire or lay off? Karen, how about you?
Yeah, in the history of the company in the 20 years, I don't have a count, and that'd be interesting to find that. I was actually thinking the other day it would be fun to find out how many people we've hired over the course of 20 years because people come and go naturally.
Sure.
But we've certainly gotten better at it over the years.
I mean, is it more than, 20, more than 50?
Yes, probably. 50-ish, probably.
Okay.
And I'm combining firing and laying off, although they're very different, right? So firing is for, in our case, people not being able to perform the work at the quality that's expected. And the expectation is very clear, which makes firing much easier. If it was unclear and vague and nobody really knew what the standard was or what was expected of them, firing is much more difficult. But for us, it's very clear what's expected. We talk about it all the time. And so it's no surprise, and it makes it much easier if somebody's not cutting it. And it's usually not a surprise to them because they've been on a performance plan. We work very hard. We want them to succeed. So we do everything possible to try to help them and get them there. And if it becomes where it's too much stress and work for all the people around lifting the load, trying to help them, then they have to go.
Dana, how about you? Do you know how many people you fired?
8 people.
You know exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. 8 people in 7 years.
Has it gotten any easier over that time?
Yes, it has. I know now, especially with the last termination, I have to choose Paralee Boyd over people who are making it abundantly clear that they don't want to be at Paralee Boyd. So when I look at it from that perspective, it has become easier, not comfortable, but easier to do.
How about you, Jay? You've been in business over 40 years, I believe. How many people have you fired?
Personally, probably, 200. I mean, mostly in the first 20 years. I haven't personally fired anybody, and I can't even think of the last person. But for those years where I was the main manager and things were growing, I have to give you perspective, though. I have 115 employees. So over 42 years, I've been through, 1,000 employees maybe. But in the beginning, I've never had a job. I had no idea how to hire people. And if they showed up and had a pulse, I'd hire them because I needed somebody. And I thought everyone just works hard and you tell them what to do. So because of my extremely undisciplined and ignorant hiring practices as a 22-year-old, I hired a lot of people that couldn't do the job or didn't want to do the job or were just not planning on doing the job. So now that we've gotten better at hiring, we don't fire a lot of people.
Have you gotten better at firing? Are there aspects to how you manage this that you've learned through the years and through all those firings?
Yes. The first thing I've learned is better that they quit for you and for them. So the first thing is we sit down with them, and if they're not doing things properly or whatever, we tell them. And then after the second time, perhaps we can say, listen, I'm getting concerned. This might not be the right job for you because I'm telling you the same thing for the third time now. And sometimes they figure it out on their own and they leave, which is good for everybody. I've yet to meet an entrepreneur that's been in business for years that doesn't say, yeah, I've waited too long plenty of times. Karen, you with me on that? Did you ever wait too long?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a common thing.
But how long has changed.
Right. No,
but
for
it's
sure.
always a relief,
Right.
It's generally always a relief, and that makes it easier to do it.
So my thinking is when all hope has left, so should they. And, I don't just hope they get better. And the test I use, which I figured out years ago, it's just a visceral question you ask yourself. If this person showed up tomorrow and said, you know what, I've got some bad news, I'm moving to Denver, would you want to jump up in your chair and give yourself a high five? You shouldn't be relieved when people quit. And I actually in my head think, would I be relieved? And if I would be relieved, I know it's time. If I wouldn't be relieved, I know I got to work on it some more. So I also want to have what I would call righteous firings, which means I got clean hands. Like when they say to you, I can't believe you're firing me, I want to be able to say, I can't believe you're surprised. I told you 3 weeks ago that if you did this again, you were going to get fired. What part of this would be a surprise? So I don't think people should be surprised usually when they get fired unless they did something that's just, egregious that you couldn't have seen coming.
You're kind of talking about situations where it's to some extent black and white, where somebody, makes clear that they're not really into the job. They perhaps don't even really want to be there. It can be a lot more difficult than that. The obvious situation is when someone just doesn't grow with the business. They might have been just fine early on, but things change. The business evolves. They don't. Something has to be done. Have any of you had a really tough firing that you struggled with? Maybe couldn't even sleep the night before?
That was me with my termination in August. And it wasn't, you're right, it's not so black and white. This is somebody I care about. This is somebody that was great when we first started. I mean, I slept really good knowing that in the beginning that this person was on my team. But towards the end, when I started walking into my businesses and seeing things not being done and seeing, just not what I wanted and being told, well, it's okay, or there's nothing we can do, or, well, this is just how it is. I decided to hire someone that could help me execute what I needed to be done, because at that point, and this is 3 years in with this person, at that point, there wasn't really much I could do to get them to do what I needed them to do. I knew that they were going to do what they wanted to do regardless. And then if, you terminated that person, you're left holding the bag for everything, meaning you now got to work triple times as hard. So I knew I would need help if it came to that. And when I hired this operations person, I had actually hoped that this person would step up, but they didn't. It got worse. And so it was really hard. And not so much because you know their life and their family and you, like I said, you care about them. It was hard because I had hope. And it got even harder when you realize that hope was misplaced, that they're not stepping up, they're getting worse because you've put structure in place.
Did you have that kind of conversation that Jay described of just laying it out to them? You have to change the way you're doing this?
Yeah. So it was in the beginning, it was, okay, Dana's not happy. So let's talk to Dana to make Dana happy. And then, but the performance wasn't changing. So then I said in a conference call with both of my managers at the time, these are the things that need to change. This person is coming in to put in more structure, and this will help you. One manager was excited. The other manager was skeptical. And so needless to say, the manager that was skeptical acted out when this person was hired, continued to act out once this person got their bearings. And we wound up having to terminate them. And that was tough because, again, this was somebody who had been such an amazing support to me in the beginning. In order for Paralee Boyd to grow, I had to choose either this employee or Paralee Boyd. It's up to you. And then after the person left, there was a saddened relief, but it was relief because they weren't there anymore. And then the cat comes out of the bag. You're hearing from customers all the things and staff members, all the things that were going on behind your back, so to speak, all the things that were allowed. And then you start to see the change. Now we don't have people calling off every week. People are coming to work, and if somebody can't come into work, they're taking the shifts of somebody else or holding their hand. No, I'll take her shift. No, I'll take her shift. Before, we were having a hard time covering shifts. All of this calling off and people not being accountable, leadership had to change. And once leadership changed, it started to turn, and we started to see that turn in October, November. So
the harsh reality is businesses outgrow people. And when you start a company by yourself with 3 employees, it is unlikely that what those 3 employees, when you've got 73 employees, are going to still fit in what you used to be. Some will grow with you and some won't, and it'll be resentful that, wait, it used to be you and me, and now it's all these other people. And it's just unlikely that you're going to keep all the people from the beginning as you grow a company.
I'm curious about what you tell the other employees in some of these situations.
I think it's important to share why, because two things. One is it shows people, oh, that's not me, and they can relax. And 2, it sets the standard. This is what we tolerate. This is what we don't tolerate. And that's how you have a culture that's not toxic. Because if you're tolerating one bad attitude or low quality where other people have to pick up the pieces and deal with this person's bad attitude, you're enforcing that culture. And then people, you would be surprised. They're generally sad that the person's left, I'm sure, if they have a personal relationship, but relieved to know that this is a company that really puts their money where their mouth is. They really value this high quality environment, which is why I've come here. I want to work in a high quality place. I want to be with people who are really cream of the crop beside me. And as soon as we let that standard down, they all of a sudden lose confidence in us.
Karen, I'm curious, is there a legal aspect to that? Have you discussed that with your lawyers, whether it's okay to tell other employees why someone's been fired?
I have not.
We don't share why they've been fired because we do keep that privacy. A lot of times people already know.
Yeah, and we don't get into the nitty-gritty details, but it would be quality of the work is not there. And, that's everybody understands what that means.
I think the important part is that you explain, and we certainly had conversations about this with them, just so I 100% agree with Karen. There's some anxiety there. Let them know. I just want you to know, discussing some issues that were a problem, and it wasn't going right. And unfortunately, they're gone because I don't know. Otherwise, people make up their own stories. And then, I heard it's because he wanted to bring his brother-in-law in, and they make up their own. And then the person that left tells a story. And I think it's critical that everyone knows I play fair. We play fair. We tried. It didn't work. And I've never had a problem with that. And as far as asking lawyers, if you want to call a lawyer about all this stuff, they'll tell you don't talk to anybody, don't look at anybody, don't fire anybody, don't hire anybody, don't sign a lease. I've learned that, trust me, get a labor attorney on the phone and they'll tell you, no, you should never say anything. And then see how they run their own business. They don't. So
we have a culture called Cut the Cancer. And so all of our people work closely together because we're not that big in each salon. Once we're at the point where we terminate, you've already spread, so to speak. And so we, remove you. Normally when people are let go at Paralee Boyd, people have already seen it coming. And unfortunately, the cancer is already spread and people have already started to underperform because we've allowed it with this person. So we don't really have to say much. They kind of already know when they say, oh my God, what happened to such and such? They're normally doing it because they're still speaking to that person and they want to hear what we have to say. So we answer it as if we're speaking to the person that was terminated by saying, well, they were underperforming and, we trained them and they didn't quite make the mark for training as far as their timeliness or getting to work on time or their performance. And so in order to keep our standards up, we had to let them go and we leave it alone.
Dana, you're very process-oriented. You operate your hair salons on the principles of lean manufacturing as you move your customers through the salon. Do you have an actual process for letting somebody go right down to prescribing, how it happens and where it happens and who's in the room?
Yep, depending on who it is. If it's a manager, we never terminate within the salon. And it's something that's done before we actually let them know. We start, taking down permissions and access to stuff probably the night or the day before. And then when they come in, we have a conversation. But the process starts with my operations manager and I understanding the relationships that this person has within the salon and trying to manage that and preparing for the fallout of this person being terminated. So if it's a stylist and we say, hey, how far has the cancer spread? And it's like, well, if we terminate this stylist, we know these two are probably going to follow. So then we say, okay, let's hire their replacements. And then let them go. But we also have reviews. We've let you know, and we've asked you, how can we help you succeed in this position? We have a stylist now who's struggling with her timing. It's taking her 30 minutes to style a person per head. So now it's on Dana and my management to supply her with everything she needs to cut that time down and give her time to flourish, but also schedule her so it's not affecting the business. And so then over time, if we see she's just not improving, then that's a conversation for her. Maybe she's moved to another position, or maybe we just keep her on days that are slow where she can perform at that weight, but we'll let her know it won't be for long because these days aren't going to be slow. So we let them know, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. Here's what we're going to give you to help you improve. And we'll check back in with you on this day to see if you've improved with our data. Like we're watching them to see whether they know it or not. Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. We're timing them. And then when we get back with them, we say, okay, here are the days that we timed them, but here are the days that we know that you weren't. And this is how much you've improved. And we also encourage their colleagues to help them as well. So we'll have them staffed on a day where they're working next to somebody who's at the speed that we want them at. And kind of through osmosis, they kind of pick up. We have had people who've decided, no, I'm not doing it that fast. You're rushing me. And we said, this is not the place for you. You should probably be in a suite where you have 1 hour and 50 minutes to spend on one person. And you can do that. And so how do we transition you from here to there? You don't have to transition me. I'll leave right now. That's your choice. That's not what we want. But if you'd like to leave right now, then that's on you.
Maybe that is what you want.
Dana, I love you. So I'm just trying to help. I would stop using the word spreading the cancer because some of those people are not cancer. They just have a different view than you have, or they're slow, or they're whatever. But I understand what you're saying. I use the phrase that they take hostages sometimes, but they're not always, some people just can't.
What do you mean by that, Jay? What do you mean by taking hostages?
They go and they'll start, colluding in the back. Oh, I can't believe she's doing this or she's doing that. And they take hostages. But the phrase spreading the cancer is suggesting they're bad. They're not maybe not bad. They just can't do the job.
I don't think that's the case in my situation. I think that when I refer to people spreading the cancer, when my operations manager and I sit down and we talk about this, these are people who are obviously messy, who don't have the professional standards of business acumen to not be nasty. And I'm saying it's not, well, they're just talking. No, they're ordering 50 pizzas and having them delivered to the salon.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking nasty. That's why I probably won't change. And it's not something we say to them, but we're talking about people who are calling the state board every week to get them to come and do an inspection on our salon because they're mad.
Wow.
So so that's what we mean by the cancer. And then they have people who work in the salon who may not be in line with what they're doing, but who provide an audience for them.
Dana, I want to ask you about the anger you're describing. I wasn't sure if I was going to ask about this, but I feel like I need to, given the times that we live in. Do you or you, either Karen or Jay as well, do you worry about somebody being so angry that they come back to the shop or the office with a gun or something?
So they haven't come back with a gun. No, but I mean, in my world, they haven't.
It happened 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah. So they haven't come back with a gun, but they've come up with family members wanting to get into an altercation. And that's just not who we are or what we do. We lock the door and call the police, and you can stand outside and act a fool. You can stand outside and cut up, but I'm not entertaining you. I am working with some people who haven't worked outside of hair salons. And in some salons, this level of behavior and drama is acceptable. So they feel that because they're in a salon, they could come in here and do it. And we just don't tolerate it. You're asked to leave and we call the police. And it's as simple as that. They want to, some have wanted to get into an altercation with me. That's why right now we have removed me from the termination process, because it's about getting at Dana, right? And it's like, no. So we've had to have Google contact people because they've gone on Google and started acting up, on Facebook and started acting up. So I can't speak for the other two people on the call, but I know at Paralee Boyd, it has gotten quite contentious and we've had to involve authorities. And I've crossed my arms and okay, police reports have been filed. The last termination, I have been strongly recommended that I get a personal protection order, because after this person was terminated, they were driving by the front of the salon, sitting in front of the salon for hours. They were so angry, wondering, getting threatening text messages to my cell phone. Better watch your back. I'm around the corner.
So what did you do?
There's a side to me, Lauren.
Don't mess with her. Do
your worst. Come on. I mean, and I'm not saying with ego or hubris, but like I said, when we were on stage at Blink, what's for me is for me. If you're coming, come on. Let's go. I can't go through life afraid. That's just, I can't, they're texting me. Let me tell the police.
Which gets to my whole thing. I really believe that if any of us wanted to, we can make a list of 50 things to be afraid of. We could be afraid of someone leaving a hot plate plugged in at the building and it burns your building down. You'd be afraid of your bank canceling your credit line. There's 50 things going to happen. And I really believe that if you're in business for yourself, that fear is the kryptonite of business, and you can't be afraid, and you just have to deal with things as they come along. And could that happen? Yeah, sure. But I can't be thinking about it too much because you'd go crazy. So it's the nature of being in business for yourself, which is the heart of the word entrepreneur. It's taking risk.
My faith is also another part of it. Like I said, what's for me is for me. Hey, and I'm not saying be stupid and call this person out and say, hey, come meet me here. No, but, I take precaution, but I won't run Paralee Boyd and operate Paralee Boyd in fear of what somebody who wasn't in line with what needed to be done in the first place is going to do.
Dana, you've said this a couple of times, and I have to admit, I don't understand what you mean when you say that. What's for me is for me. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that it's already written. The blessings that are due to me and the adversity and the trials and tribulations and the lessons of life, that's already done, right? In my belief, in my faith, God has put me here on earth to do this thing. Only he knows he or she knows what that is. And so my job is to be guided by my faith, walk in my faith, and do what I'm supposed to do. Come what may, my faith will get me through it, and I'm equipped to deal with anything as long as I keep the faith. What's for me is for me, good and bad.
But Dana, you're also a very thoughtful and strategic person. What you just said kind of implies that you're prepared to accept whatever may come, and I don't think that's fair to you.
No, you do the work, right? You do the work. You plan and you plan and you do the work.
I think what you're saying is you will deal with whatever comes along.
Come with me and I will be fine.
That is the credo of entrepreneurship. Exactly. I will deal with whatever happens because that is what entrepreneurship is all about at its core.
And I will be fine. I will be okay. That's it. People say the same thing with competition. Dana, aren't you worried about competition? No. If it's meant for me to be an international brand, I will be an international brand regardless of who is out there. If it's not meant for me to be, I won't be, and I will be fine.
One other thing on kind of managing this process, especially in a situation where you think there may be real anger on the other side. One way to possibly manage that is through the payment of severance, which can give somebody a reason to behave well. I'm curious about each of your attitudes towards paying severance. How about you, Karen? How do you approach that?
We pay severance, definitely, and it's adjusted. Where our goal is to make sure that there is not an undue financial hardship. So we we're not obligated to pay any, but we certainly always do. And we look at the tenure of the employee, and, if there's any unusual circumstances that we know about in their lives, we may try to do more, certainly around extending their healthcare benefits.
How about you, Jay?
If someone's been there less than a year, I don't know that I'd be paying any, but I've always paid out severance. And I think if you expect someone would have given you 2 weeks notice, I think it's right to give someone 2 weeks severance pay if they've been there, let's say, more than a year. And I've had people that were here for 5 or 10 years, not a lot, very seldom, but over the years, I've paid out, a week or two per year while they were here, and it can take the edge off. And I also have learned when you're firing someone, you don't have to win the argument. This isn't an argument. You just tell them this isn't the right fit. We've talked about it. They tell you you're wrong. Say, maybe you're right. I'm not arguing with you. You might be right. It's just obviously the wrong place for you. And you don't, the mistake a rookie entrepreneur makes is they argue with the person. There's nothing to argue about. The shorter, the better. Everything you say can and will be used against you. And I have to tell you, in all of these years, I've only had one person that really went off, but not like swinging or anything, but like, yelling at me, it's all my fault. But I've never had anybody who, got that violent or got violent at all. I think you have to get good at trying to lower the volume of the thing and do it in private for sure. You don't go screaming to someone on the floor. That's it. You're fired. I mean, it looks good in the movies, but it's really bad practice. I think if you do it in a respectful manner and you offer some severance, it will be better. I'm not going to say many people are going to thank you, though I have had a couple people thank me.
Wait. They thanked you for being fired?
Yeah, I hired a guy to run the factory, and he was so over his head. And finally, I just said, what, this isn't working. Today's really. He goes, thank you. So it does happen. And there are people that know that it's over and it's fine. It's just, I've just found it's usually not as bad as you think it's going to be. And if you do it in a respectful manner, and I have talked to entrepreneurs say, I don't pay severance pay. I think that's a huge mistake. I just think it speaks badly of the company.
I don't pay severance pay.
Why not?
One, I can't afford it. And even I believe now that I'm listening to you guys, I don't know if I would because of the process we have in place to get you to succeed. Right. And so if you're working and you're just not going to do the job, you've made a decision, and hopefully you've made preparations behind your decision to not work here anymore because it's coming.
But that's probably in the first year, I would assume. Right?
No, I mean, when we had a manager that we terminated in August, had been with me 3 years, I didn't offer severance. And thank God, when she left, we found out all the things that they were doing. I don't want to pay somebody to prevent crazy.
I don't know. I don't disagree with that. If it's a situation like that, I'm just going, you also have been in business for 20 years. But if you've been in business for 20 years, you're going to eventually have someone who's got a little arthritis in their hand and they're getting older.
Well, that's different.
Right. I'm saying, and they can't do the job, and you will eventually realize you'll probably get to a point where you'll say it's a reasonable thing to give them some severance.
Find something, like we've repositioned people within the company, right? So you're not quite making it as a stylist. Maybe we could do a shampoo assistant. You're not quite making it as a shampoo assistant. Have you thought about reception, right? And so we'll move you before we terminate you.
I'm telling you, a new problem is if you're in business for 40 years, you will end up with people that are 70 years old that should retire, and it's illegal to fire somebody for age. It's a problem, it's a problem. And
in that situation, severance is smart. If we had a young lady who'd work with me and she's, grown old with this company, I would not want to just say, okay, goodbye, you're gone. Oh no, we would have probably talked way before then about, as long as they're getting something out of it, and as long as the company is getting something out of it, and if we're starting to notice, hey, they're not really keeping up anymore, then they're trying to find something else for them to do. But if it's just not something that's working out, let's phase you out. And with a parachute, I would do that for somebody who'd been with me for a long time. Sure.
All right, next topic. I do want to talk about competition, and I would like to start with you, Dana, because we just had an item that we ran in the morning report, and that I sent to you about a venture-backed hair salon based, I believe, in San Francisco, that's kind of going after the same market you're going after, and I'm curious. What's your response to that?
When I got the email, I was like, oh no. I was like, oh man. But, then, because I'm human. And then you think about it and go, wow, this is a validator. If I ever did want to take on venture capitalist funds, it would be, hey, this is working in this market, right? There's somebody that is doing it and it's working. So,
by the way, I should point out this is a fairly high profile thing. We're talking about venture capital coming from Alex Ohanian, who is a tech entrepreneur and who happens to be married to Serena Williams. So there's some star power there.
Exactly.
Your initial thought was fear, but you came to terms with it.
Yes. And you also said to me in your email that it's a validator. It's saying, hey, this is a business model that you should look at investing in. And then, you do your homework, you do your research, and you look at the differences between the businesses, and you see that there's room for everybody because it is a different model, just catering to the same market. So you just keep going. And I think for some of the entrepreneurs I talked to about this, I think what scares us is our network and the fact that we don't have the network to put us on a national platform like that, right? So it is like, gosh, I've been doing this for 7 years, or like another girlfriend of mine, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I have this line or I have this business, but because I'm not in the Silicon Valley venture capitalist world, I will stay at 4 salons or 4 businesses because I'm not connected. Am I realizing my potential, or am I falling short of my potential because I don't have the network? That was the takeaway from that.
Karen, how do you think about competition? Obviously, there are other firms who do similar work to yours.
Yeah, there's not a lot on with the experience and the scale that we have that are really specialized like us. But anyone working in the user experience industry in general, I think it's good because it helps raise awareness for the industry because it is still fairly new. So I look at it as more marketing power that we can piggyback on, the more companies that know about this kind of service that you can hire. And then because we have a really long track record and really high quality work and a great reputation, it doesn't concern me that others are going to come in and replace us. That being said, though, I have tried to, get some funding so that we can buy some of the smaller companies that are around, because there is a consolidation going on with some of the big companies to try to snatch everybody up and be the sort of highest volume. So, that is something that concerns me, is I want to be able to play in the big leagues.
You make an interesting point about the industry you're in. I'm guessing you probably still have to explain to people you meet sometimes what user experience is.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing right now, is the more people that understand it, the bigger the industry becomes, because it is a really important function. So, yes, out in the general public, yes, our clients, though, generally, they're coming to us. We're not trying to educate them. So they've already figured that out elsewhere before they come to us.
How do they find you? Is that word of mouth or particular marketing?
It's a lot of web searching. And so somebody would have heard, and this is why any companies that are helping to market what it is and what it means is good for us, because that would, put an idea into a potential client's head. They might do a web search and they're going to likely come to us at some point, if it's not through referral, which is a big part of our business.
How about you, Jay? I suspect that the nature of the competition that you face in both your frame shop and in your home furnishing store has changed a lot through the years.
Well, every time you say the word frame shop, I cringe a little bit, just because people think of a frame shop, that usually means 2 employees. My frame business has 50 people working here. It's literally 20 times. My one main location is 20 times the size of the average frame shop. So I started at 22 years old and it grew like crazy and I didn't understand why. And I finally realized that I brought a business approach to an artsy business and I got the two to work together, and that's unusual. So I never have really looked at what everyone else is doing because I don't care. And I view it more like, I'm playing golf versus playing basketball. I mean, you pay attention to what you're doing, you do it better than everyone else. Everything kind of takes care of itself. So in my industry, though, there's been franchises, they pretty much have failed. And that's why I have told Dana, you know what, having 4 successful salons that make money might just be a great situation, because I see these guys that have raised money and I'm on the panel with them on, Lauren, you were with me in Chicago. We did a panel thing there and the guy next to me, both of them said, yeah, I wish I didn't have to raise money. I don't have to answer to anybody. So I always say to everyone, what's better? Not having to answer to everybody and making plenty of money that you can buy the nice car, the nice house, and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe be worth 5 times, 10 times more money, but have to take a call from some joker in wherever that's telling you he doesn't like this number or that number. So it's looking at the competition and looking at what everyone else is doing can be very dangerous because it might rob you of your happiness.
I take your point, but don't you have to pay attention to what others are doing? I mean, you have well-funded competitors. I mean, there is a frame service on the internet now that people can use.
Yes, have burned through $70-80 million, and I doubt that it's working out like they thought. So,
well, how about home furnishings? If there's Restoration Hardware.
I just read today Wayfair lost. It was just today's news. They lost another $300 million, and they're just this free shipping everybody's giving is when you give free shipping, it's pretty much giving away your profits. So yeah, it's a challenging environment with that. My home store is well known in Chicago, and I do internet, but I don't have any desire, ambition, or ability to go and raise. I just don't want to do it. So I'm not paying that much attention to the competition. And I think that it's not like I ignore them, but I'm just not learning anything from them other than here's how you lose a lot of money. And as you know, they frequently one day, poof, gone.
Well, I'm certainly not trying to talk you into raising money. I'm just curious about to what extent you can get away with, really not paying attention to what others in the industry are doing. It's got to, when everybody else is giving away free shipping, it's got to have an impact on you. You have to be aware of it and look for ways to deal with it.
I think you should be conscious of your competition, but you shouldn't be focused. You should be focused on your customers. And I don't think you should be focused on your competition. And I see people that do that. And it's like, then you're basically saying they're smarter than I am. I'll just copy what they do, which in some cases, I guess, might be smart.
I don't know. There has got to be a middle ground there somewhere, Jay. I mean, I don't know this industry the way you do, but I've read some stories about how Restoration Hardware has turned itself around and figured some things out and trying some, I think, they're doing some subscription stuff. They've put a restaurant in some of their locations. Isn't that worth paying attention to?
I am to a degree. I mean, they put there's a big one in Chicago. They're a public company. They got nothing but money to burn. And I have thought about maybe I should put a food element in my store. And I am thinking about it. So it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's just that I'm just not following what everyone else does, though, because in these days, the world has changed dramatically. 30 years ago, if you saw a company that was doing well, they actually were making a profit. Now you see these companies getting all this publicity and they're worth $2 billion. And then you find, look at WeWork, for God's sakes. Explain how you can lose that much money. How many of these companies you read about regularly are doing nothing but losing hundreds of millions of dollars a year? So you can't assume, well, if they're doing it, I should do it. Well, I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to lose. So it's different.
But that's not the only choice, doing what they're doing. The other possibility is that you just need to pay attention because it's going to have an impact on you.
What lesson is there from that? What lesson is there to learn from companies that give free shipping and never make any money? What should I learn from that? That I should give free shipping and not make money?
It's one thing to say you don't want to do what they're doing, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with you. I think it's another thing to say that you can just ignore it, and that's where I'm pressing you a little bit. I think you have to know what they're doing.
I would say be conscious of it, but I'm arguing the point of versus focusing on it. I'm certainly aware of what they're doing.
Going back to Dana's situation, I mean, we're talking about a venture-backed company that I think has one location right now in San Francisco. I don't think Dana should be giving up the ghost because of this possible competition that may or may not ever come. But they may do some interesting things, and it probably makes sense for her to pay attention to what they're doing. Does that make sense to you, Dana?
Yeah, I mean, what I started paying attention to is the price point. It's higher than mine. They're at $75 for what I do, even when I go up to $50.
That's good to know.
It's a higher price point. They are, again, like most salons, appointment based. And so you can't just walk in. They accept them, like most salons do, but it's not their model. And then lastly, they're doing more protective styles, meaning they're doing more braiding, sewing in of hair. And so it's not, again, it helps that, hey, this is somebody that is, getting, money to expand a business for my market. However, it's not completely different. It's not something new. It's just the same model focused to this market, doing it this way.
How would you feel if they opened a store in Detroit tomorrow?
I would welcome it because we would be her alternative.
To Karen's point, they might increase awareness, but you're providing different services at a lower price point.
The stylist at this salon had to cancel. Something happened. You don't want to wear braids to an event. You don't want to wear a sew-in. You want to wear your, you want to blow and go or a straighter style. But I can't get in anywhere. I just need this done. I could walk into Paralee Boyd's for $40 and walk out. It's pretty cool.
Lauren, can you just verify, because you know this as well as anyone, what percentage, or Karen, you might know this also, what percentage of venture capital funded businesses fail out of 10? Isn't it like 8?
That's kind of the model. I don't know the exact number, but it's certainly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7 out of 10.
It's not as simple as first get a bunch of money and then we'll just make everything work. It doesn't always work that way.
And there's a lot of things that only experience can attest to, right? As much preparation as I did to open Paralee Boyd, there's nothing that could have prepared me for all the knowledge that I have now outside of the 7 years that it took for me to get that knowledge. And so there's a lot that this owner and these venture capitalists who are completely unfamiliar with this world, there's a lot that you're going to have to learn. I believe that hair care products are this founder's background. I don't know if the actual salon is in this founder's background. So if it's not, there's a lot to learn versus making a product. The whole culture and dynamics of that system in and of itself is just a lot to learn.
Maybe you should call them and offer them some advice.
No, actually, I'm just going to grow Paralee Boyd. And
were you serious about that, Karen?
Yeah, in a way. Could collaborate.
What's in it for Dana to do that?
Oh, I don't know. They might pay her a lot of money.
Oh, I see.
I feel like, Miss Seeley or in The Color Purple. I'm just going to sit over here and see what color the wall is going to turn next, right? I'm like, Jay, let's see how they do, right?
Yeah, look at what just happened with Blue Apron. I mean, that was the hottest thing you ever read. And then the next thing you know, they're in the toilet. Are they in
the toilet? Because I get them every other week.
Well, no, I'm going to give you the core to many of these ideas that don't work, many of them. It's not cost effective to ship something to one person in a UPS box. It's just not that cheap. And they always think they're going to scale out of this because a lot of them came from the computer industry, which the first copy or whatever you call of a program costs $1 zillion, but then your margins are phenomenal. Not on food. The margins aren't phenomenal. So as you grow, you can't necessarily scale out your costs. And you see it in a lot of things that the math doesn't work ultimately.
And on that note, we are out of time. My thanks to Karen Clark Cole, Jay Goltz, and Dana White.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Remember, if you liked what you heard, tell your friends, tell your enemies, subscribe, like us, and best of all, connect with us. Follow us on Twitter at 21_hats and visit us at 21hats.com. Let us know what questions or issues you'd like to hear our panel of fearless business owners address. See you next time.